March of 2020, I was your practical college student. I was a second-year student living on campus doing homework all the time. I could do homework in my room, in the dining commons area, in the library, in the student union, at a friend's dorm, anywhere I went on campus. I could easily access reliable internet and do my homework with minimal issues. Unfortunately, my last day on campus came, and since then I've been in a constant battle with my schoolwork. While these last few months have not been easy for any students, I have been faced with the additional struggle of having to travel in order to get my schoolwork done. I live in a pretty rural part of my town. Though my town is considered to be a medium-sized town within Western North Carolina, there are a few neighborhoods, homes, and families that have to deal with the struggle of not having internet access, and I'm included. I'll get into more detail further into the video, but the gist of it is that I have to travel 5 minutes to my sister's house in order to get internet. Though 5 minutes isn't a long way to travel, having to do this and having to go outside of my home simply because that despite being 3 minutes away from having reliable internet service where I live, I cannot get it. Within this video, I will explore the problems students, both within college and K-12, experience due to the lack of having internet, while also diving into the additional problem that COVID has brought along to these communities and what is being done to solve these issues, as well as diving into my own personal struggles with my lack of access to the internet. The internet was born and it quickly evolved into becoming a tool to be used by everyone worldwide. Though that might not always be the case in countries with a strict control on internet access, you would think that in the United States, access would be allowed to everyone. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. As someone who does not have reliable internet access at home, and is also a struggling college student, I wanted to learn more about the lack of internet access in rural communities. According to an article released by the Pew Research Center, 24% of rural adults say access to high-speed internet is a major problem in their local community in comparison to the 13% of Americans who live in urban areas or the 9% who live in suburbs. It should also be noted that 20% of rural adults whose household income is less than $30,000 a year and 31% of those who identify as non-white say access to high-speed internet is a major problem. But why is this an issue? Data from the Federal Communications Commission shows that rural areas are less likely to be wired for broadband services and tend to have slower internet speeds, while also having fewer broadband providers operating within the area. This means consumers have less options when it comes to high-speed services. Even those who are able to connect to the internet services can still experience spotty coverages, slow speeds, data caps, and above normal fees. One of the many criticisms the FCC faces includes that their internet service mapping policies are unclear and inaccurate. Internet service providers are required to report on coverage areas and speeds, but according to Blink Networks, ISPs declare that an area is fully served with broadband even if just one home in a census block has service. We find ourselves in a time where citizens require adequate internet access, whether that be for social, academic, economic, or political reasons. It seems strange that communities in need are being overlooked, especially students whose studies may require access to the internet. According to YourStory.com, internet is beneficial for students for 4 different reasons: to study relevant materials, for online education, for helpful researching, and for reliable communication. And accordingly so, it seems that the lack of internet holds many students back. It's estimated that, quote, 6.5 million students nationwide don't have the broadband internet access required to complete their homework assignments, end of quote. Perhaps a few months ago, this issue could be treated by allowing students to complete online assignments while at school or offering them resources at the public library or other public spaces where they could access the internet. But since the United States has been struck with COVID-19, schools in public areas have been forced to close. These resources, once helpful and necessary to students, are no longer available. Many schools across the country have opted to making schoolwork optional, but this means that students are not learning any new material. Certain internet companies such as Charter have offered a few months of free internet service for those homes who prior to the COVID outbreak did not have internet. Being the college student in need that I was, I decided to opt in for this free service. When I called, I was nicely greeted and told that I could apply for the free internet. But after they looked up my address and discovered that I was not in an area with broadband service, I was denied the opportunity. What seemed like a wonderful opportunity turned out to be an immense letdown. Like many others, I was stuck and offline. Fortunately for me, I had access to a limited mobile hotspot, and I had a sister with a home that had Wi-Fi, and I had a car. For some students that needed access to the internet, the only option was to connect themselves to hotspots provided by their schools, many which included using school buses equipped with Wi-Fi. For those who didn't have transportation, they were left in the same place they started. All in all, local communities are doing what they can do to ensure that their students are not left in the dark, but the solutions are only short-term. So what is being done for those who are still in need of internet services in terms of long-term solutions? According to Journalist Resource, states in the US are setting targets for broadband speed faster than the federal standards. In attempts for change for higher rural broadband speeds, Minnesota is leading, hoping that by 2026, all homes and businesses will have access to at least one broadband provider that offers download speeds up to at least 100 Mbps. Of course, these changes will not be cheap. Many states hoping for change estimate that providing proper broadband access across the state could cost around $1 billion. Despite these hiccups in an attempt to access reliable internet service, it is up to us, the citizens, to ensure that our government and policymakers are attempting to resolve this issue and provide us with a proper and quick solution and approach.